If I'm live already, just hold on for a second until this finishes getting me redirected, and then I'll know for sure if I'm on live or not. I am. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back, and let's chat about what is going on in the sky above us today. And looking a little bit ahead at the week, we'll be able to see what some of the energies are that we could be dealing with this week. And actually, as I look ahead, the week itself isn't as difficult, let's say, as some of the energies were last week. Today we have, of course, Mercury moving into Taurus. Wednesday we have Pallas Athena moving into Aquarius. And then on, let's see, I'm going to need to get out May because May is this week as well. May, we really start out with nothing of huge import. So I kind of like that. Hold on, I got to turn my phone onto silent mode. And great. So we have a fairly easy week, let's say, although some changes on board, especially when we have a planet like Mercury that moves quite quickly through the zodiac, moving into a different sign. Remember, he spent a long time in the sign of Pisces a while back, and that was when the virus was really kicking up and we were really learning more about it. And then the planet Mercury moved out of Pisces, finally completed the retrograde, the retro shade, moved into Aries, and things got a little chaotic, and our minds were kind of racing, and actions were being taken to, mitigate the experience of the virus or the things that were happening. Now, the little messenger planet moves into the sign of Taurus. Now, Taurus to me, when I looked at that, is like the calming sign, right? This is the sign that to us as human beings that things are calming down and that quite possibly we're going to be able to move ahead into new territory without the craziness of what has been happening in the sign of Aries. So good morning, J-Lo. Good morning, Phantom Chroma. Lex, good morning to you. Amy, good morning, Allison. Good morning, Mimi, everybody. I'm glad you all found me. By the way, if you had trouble finding me on Friday, that was my bad. As I right now still have 2 YouTube channels. One that I don't even know how I ended up with 2. First of all, that was long ago. I've had a YouTube channel forever. And I didn't realize that sometimes when I log in, I'm on one channel, and sometimes when I log in, I'm on another. So anytime I clean out my cache and my cookies and so forth, it jumps me back to my old channel. So I have to set about to determine which of those channels I want to keep, and I know which one I want to keep, but now I've got to figure out how to get all those other videos, whether I want to keep them, whether I don't care about them, so I could close down that other channel. So I apologize if there was confusion on Friday. That's what that was all about. Hopefully now we can get on the right track, as this morning I made very sure I was logging into the correct one. So it should be the one that has the light blue banner at the top with the hummingbird, and it says Living Astrology with Janet Hickox on it. The old one has the hummingbird too, but it's very pink. So if you go to the pinkish one, no. Blue one, yes. There we go. Until I can get that other channel taken down. And that might be a few more days as it takes a while to download the videos you want to keep, upload them to the new channel, and then delete, delete, delete. So let's talk some more then about Mercury moving into Taurus and what might we expect. So first of all, Mercury itself, the planet, rules communication. It rules everything to do with our minds, and it has everything to do with our intellect and our learning styles and the information that we're learning about at any particular time. So whatever sign it is in your own natal chart shows you how it is that your mind is set up. So for example, mine is in Cancer. So I often think very emotionally. And if yours is in, say, Aquarius, maybe you think dispassionately. Maybe you're really good at stepping back and observing from the observer position as opposed to being engaged in something. So whatever sign your Mercury is how you speak and how you think and your learning style. So when Mercury is transiting through the various signs, it triggers us to learn how to be thinking and speaking in a different way for that time being. So Mercury is moved into Taurus today. It will stay there until May 11th, when he will move out of Taurus and into the sign he rules, which is Gemini. So that'll be a good time, I think, for most of us. Right now, the moon in Taurus, though. So first of all, in Aries, when we had Mercury moving through there, it was an initiating energy. Aries is about conflict, and it's that conflict of having to do something within us. It could be an inner conflict, or it could be an outer world conflict where we felt like we needed to do. And so some new beginnings might have been initiated. We may have found new ways of doing things. Our minds may have been thinking differently. And now that Mercury is moving into Taurus, we have a get her done kind of energy, as in Taurus is very much a sign that does things in a stepwise progression. They're very down to earth. It's very practical energy. So now we can be applying an action and an action plan that for things that have maybe been initiated for us over the last 3 to 4 weeks of Mercury's transit through Aries. But now that doesn't mean that everything that popped up during that last transit are going to be things that stand the test of time. So it'll be over these next couple of weeks and days that we'll start to see in our own lives what stays and what goes, depending, of course, again, on what house Taurus is in your natal chart. So I'm going to pull up a chart here really quickly and show you, as if this were a person, where the sign of Taurus is, or what it looks like, and the house that it might be in right now. So here we go. This is the chart of the moment. The moment I drew up this chart this morning, which is still set for Lynn Haven, Florida. Debbie Tibbetts to me. You might get a kick out of that. Now, if we look at this, here is what the sign of Taurus looks like. It looks just like the bull, right? The bull's head with the horns. So you find this sign in your chart, and the house that you see it in is going to tell you where this energy of doing, where this need to put steps to your action plan is going to be happening. If this chart were a person, this would happen in the 11th house. And this would be in an area of the chart about your dreams and focusing on a vision. So a lot of times people have trouble with this part of the chart. Interestingly enough, you would think that it's easy to be a dreamer. And I think if you were a Pisces, it indeed might be easy to be a dreamer. But if you're not a Pisces, then you might have some trouble being able to articulate your dream or what is your vision. Well, now with Mercury getting ready to move through here for the next few weeks, it may be much easier for all of us in a way to be able to put words and visions to action. So that would be this 11th house. Now it might be in your 10th house. It could be in any one of these houses in your chart. And the things that house rules are where it is that you're going to find you're talking about, you're taking action on. If it's in the 2nd house, for example, then maybe taking steps on finances, reducing debt, perhaps. If it's in the 8th house, if it's in the 10th house, a focus on your career. If it's in the 4th house, the focus is on home and family. So wherever it is in your chart, wherever you see this symbol right here, that is where Mercury will be transiting. And chances are it goes across 2 houses, or at least like this in this chart, you see most of the 2/3 of the journey is going to be in the 11th house, but 1/3 of the journey is going to put it in the 12th house. And that might be where this, if it were a person, would have to be dealing with the things in the subconscious mind that are stumbling blocks, or where self-sabotaging behaviors stop them from moving forward, that type of thing. So I hope that's helpful to give you an idea of where that energy might be happening for you. Just look for again, Taurus, and the nature of the houses that it's in will tell you what area of your life where now you can get some things done, where you have that getter done sort of energy available to you. So applying action then to what has been standing out for you over the last few weeks. Try to be flexible, however. Taurus is a sign that is very much tends to be more stubborn or more rigid. It endures, it perseveres, yes, but at other times, this can be an energy that doesn't want to be flexible. and can get dug in. And rather than creating something where they can move and flow with the project or with the opportunity, they get tunnel vision, right? You get that tunnel vision and it's just go straight ahead and not being able to see what's out here on the periphery and what other things might be changing or what other things might need to be done. So we have to try not to get that tunnel vision, but our thinking and our acting will be much more practical and down to earth during this period of time. Now, we also have to consider anytime a planet moves into a new sign, what new planets might it come into contact with? What are the new transits going to look like, in other words? So we know immediately, as soon as Mercury moves into the sign of Taurus, that there's going to be a square between Taurus and Aquarius. Why do we know that? Because Aquarius is a sign that is 90 degrees away from Taurus. It is also a fixed sign. I guess let me show the chart one more time here. So, whoops, did I do that wrong? Yes, I did. There we go. Here we go. Let me show you the chart again. So here's again Taurus. Over here is Aquarius, and here's our Saturn at 1 degrees 48 minutes, just about close to 2 degrees of Aquarius. So when Mercury gets to about 1 to 2 degrees of Taurus, they are going to be in a square to one another. And you can literally count signs if you want. You go from, let's say, 1 degree Taurus to 1 degree Aries, that's 30 degrees, 1 degree Pisces, that's 60 degrees, and 1 degree Aquarius down here, and that is 90 degrees, and that's a square. So we have a square between two fixed signs. And on one hand, that can be really good for getting things done, really, really supportive for that. But it also has that tendency to want us to get stuck in the box. Remember when we were first talking about Saturn moving into Aquarius, I had come across this wonderful metaphor about getting out of the box, but staying within the circle, right? So all of that energy right now then is about our getting outside of the box that we normally put ourselves in, but still being supported by a boundary or by a limitation that helps to keep us focused on what it is that we need to do or where it is we want to go, who we want to be, what we want to create. So that's the very first transit that Mercury and Taurus will create. And then we have Uranus sitting here at about 6 degrees of Taurus, and Mercury will come up to meet that planet as we end the month of April. So we actually have that happening on, let's see, Mercury conjuncts. I'll tell you here is, oh, of course, if I'm looking at April, not May, Mercury conjuncts Uranus on the 30th, so the last day of the month this week on Thursday. And that could be a day where we get some really stellar ahas. There could be some great openings that happen, right? Where movement can suddenly happen, where in the previous days or weeks or months, nothing was happening, or we couldn't make anything happen to save our souls. So we have some really keen opportunities coming up here in the next couple of days with Mercury's move into Taurus. Okay, any questions about that or comments or problems with that? Oh, wow. Good morning to Elisa, Deb Johnson, Deb Hedden. Allison D says, I'm in 11th house. There you have it. You know what you're going to be focusing on. J-Lo says, I'm doing better and ready to get back on my charts and my gates. This must be Jacqueline Lopez. So welcome. I'm really glad to see that you're feeling better and doing better. You are a Taurus sun, 2 degrees, and I have Mercury in Taurus at 8 degrees. So you're about ready to have a few rapid fire opportunities open up for you, right? As Mercury is going to come right into the conjunction with your natal sun and then right into its own return area, right? 8 degrees of Taurus would be your Mercury return. And so we've got some new energies available for you, which I think is really cool. Mimi, feeling all this since I woke up this morning in a good way, calm and organized. That's another word I could put here. There's this calm sort of energy, that peaceful even energy that comes through Taurus. And not that they don't have drama, but they would prefer not to have drama. So they do everything they can to stay away from the drama and just stay focused on whatever it is that's in front of them. whatever that might be, whether it's work, whether it's taking care of a family member, whether it's an art project, whatever it is, that energy really helps us to get to where we want to be. Am I still sharing? I am, dang it, sorry. I'm like, why is there all of that stuff that I'm seeing there? Taurus ascendant, so you also likely are going to have some kind of new beginning somewhere in time here. And that could be very interesting. And also, I just want to say, with Pluto turning retrograde on Saturday, and we'll have Saturn turning retrograde as we get into May. In fact, that happens on May 10th. And then we'll have Jupiter turning retrograde on May 14th. There may be a lot of inner work that is being required of us or requested of us in order to move forward. And I noticed this weekend that was playing out in dreams. And the first dream I had was the dreams I have sometimes are very symbolic. And so they're not literal, but I always worry a little bit that some of them are literal. The first dream I had was where my daughter, Heather, my oldest daughter, was putting me in prison. And the prison was an interesting prison because I was put in there during the day to work. And what I had to work on was writing a book. And once I got written a certain number of pages, then the prison door would open and I could go out. And that was the dream. And I was telling Mimi about this dream, and I was like, it was so surreal because I've been thinking about writing a book, and several of them, as a matter of fact. I had this idea for a series, and yet I hadn't been able to really arrange myself, my schedule, my will around writing it yet. But apparently in my subconscious mind, I need to be able to get that done. Well, the very next night I go to sleep and I wake up because I've had a terrible dream that my oldest son is in the hospital. And I'm standing at the foot of his hospital bed and I'm looking at him thinking, wow, he doesn't look sick, but he was definitely laying in a hospital bed, and that freaked me out. So I had to text him and say, are you okay? So yes, he was fine. There's nothing going on with him. But what I think is interesting is what are the symbologies that are coming up in the dreams and what might they represent? And it's difficult, I think, sometimes to see the symbols because we might be too close. I mean, often dreams are not literal. So it's not literally Wesley's in the hospital, but what might that mean? Because I'm an observer of that. And I don't know what that means yet, by the way. But some of you may be having these kinds of dreams where there's these symbols and you're not sure what they are yet, but have patience because perhaps during this transit of Mercury through Taurus, it'll be, filtered in and you'll be able to understand exactly what this means. And then with other planets subsequently turning into retrograde, you might have some of the action turn more internal. So now you may have the wherewithal to take the action that you need to on these new things. So I look forward to that. Amy says, I've definitely been having weird dreams as well. Very good. Phantom chroma, moving through past buried stuff and trauma. That sounds very 12th house. Laura Hammer, good morning to you. She says, good morning, late, but I'll catch up afterwards. That's cool. We're just happy to see you. Phantom Chroma says, I've been impossible to motivate. Thank goodness for the change. And I do have a lot of things that I have going on. I can say that for sure. What's different for me is I don't feel the will to do it. That's the part that's getting me because I have a defined will center in my human design. I have a lot of focused in earth energies in my chart. So I have that will, that tenacity to get things done. But right now I just feel like it's all blown up. Like I don't have the will to sit down and write a book. I really don't. And I don't know what that's about. Maybe that's about what's going on in the world. Maybe it's about timing. It's just not the right time yet to do that. Whatever it is, I'm assuming that at some point it will come to me and I will take action on it. All right, so that takes us through Mercury's move to Taurus, which, do I have a time for that? I do. Mercury moves into, that's May again. Mercury moves into Taurus today at 12:53 p.m. my time. So 1:53 or 12:53. 1, 2, 3, 53 for those of you on the East Coast. I always get those time changes messed up, but sometime today you're going to have that Mercury's move into Taurus. Now, we also have the moon changing signs this morning. The moon is right now still in the sign of Gemini, in the void from 10:01 a.m. my time till a whopping 26 minutes later at 10:27, when she moves out of the sign of Gemini and into the sign of Cancer. So a very, very short void of course today, which is good because, you know, how the void of course can stop our action, and or things that we try to start or things that we try to do go nowhere during the void. So we want to avoid starting anything in the void of course moon. So we only have a 26-minute void today, but after the void, the moon moves into the sign of Cancer. So where the energy has been very active and mobile and thought-oriented or mind-oriented, we move now into the sign of home and family and emotional energy. And Cancer as a sign is putting the moon in a square to the planets that are in Aries, and an opposition to the planets that are in Capricorn. So likely for the next few days, we're going to have some triggers. We're going to have emotional things come up. It might be emotional upset. It could be emotional joy or excitement. But over the next few days, we'll see some emotional things come up. We may feel more moody. We may feel like we need to cry or scream or whatever it is. I'm going to tell you, go ahead and do it, because the emotions are going to get pretty powerful here over the next few days. Cancer as a sign rules our foundations. It takes us back to that home and to that family and to where we have our roots planted in the ground. It is also the sign that represents our gut instincts. So often when we see we're triggered by a fear or by some kind of thing in our outer world, we emotionally react through very Cancer ways. In this way, it might be withdrawing, moving away from whatever it is. Like a crab, for example, right? When you go to pick up a crab or touch a crab, it darts backwards or sideways, moving away. So sometimes Cancer emotional responses aren't about screaming in somebody's face or anything like we would think of with Aries. The emotional response is much more about taking the sideways around, or feeling or abandoning something, withdrawing from something, in using gut instinct here, which is often survival based rather than the intuitive knowing of the possibility of intuitive knowing in the same sign. So safety and security, feeling like you belong, feeling like you have a family, feeling like you have a community that you're part of is a part of the Cancer experience. The moon in Cancer wants protection. The moon in Cancer wants financial security. And that's maybe a little more difficult for people to come by right now, correct? Right? The economies, I mean, the states aren't all open yet. Because of the virus. There are lots of different things that, you know, people can't get back to their jobs yet. So financial concerns, so financial security can be a part of this experience these few days. There can be that feeling of, you know, chomping at the bit, right? We're just waiting and waiting and waiting so that we can get back to the everyday parts of our lives. Now I digress for a moment. So, I was driving with my husband last week, and no, we were walking. That's right. I walk, he rides his bike. And I said to him, look at those beautiful tulips. And they were bright yellow with red streaks in them, kind of feathered up at the top. And then there was another set of them that were pink, and they had purple moving through them, or they were purple with pink, one or the other. And as I love tulips because that's what grows around here very much so. And I looked at them and I said to him, you know, it's a virus that causes the tulips to be that colorful, to change those colors. So they inject a virus into the code of a yellow tulip, and maybe it's a piece of a gene code for red. And next thing you know, they have a red and yellow streaked tulip because of a virus, right? Then fast forward a few days, Debbie Tippett's 2 Meals birthday was on Wednesday, the 23rd. And as I was chatting with her, she says something about she was getting ready to watch a movie called The Cosmic Secret, which is a movie by David Wilcox. If you know him, he is part of Ancient Aliens. He does a lot of research into past religions, past mythologies, and he just does a lot of work on the cutting edge of things that are maybe different than what we normally would think of. And she kept telling me that this was a great movie. I needed to watch it. And I eventually watched it last night, and it's fascinating. And I managed to see this man on the show whose name is James Gilliland. He owns this thing called the Gilliland Ranch here in very southern Washington. And I was really shocked to see him because I had been on that property. I had laid out in the fields looking for UFOs in the shadow of Mount Adams. And it was just amazing to see him there, sat there with him and his group. And yeah, so it was really surreal to see him on the screen. But it made me, he says something in the video, in the movie, about viruses and their capability of creating an evolutionary leap. And because, right, a virus injected into a flower, DNA code creates this stellar new flower. Well, what if there was a virus that somehow gets into the human system that creates an evolutionary leap? And I started thinking about the evolutionary leap that's coming in 2027 in our human design. We're moving from the more instinctual, gut instinct survival energies of the spleen to the more emotional energies where we choose how we react or respond. Actually, we want to learn to respond rather than react. And I happen to think about the coronavirus. And what is that doing in our human DNA? I mean, I thought it was interesting that the youngsters who are already on the planet, likely with that evolutionary leap, that DNA mutation already there, weren't touched by the virus. They didn't need to be. And then I thought about the very elderly people who were not equipped with it and probably couldn't make the leap in their DNA, and how they were affected more powerfully than there's those of us in the middle group that are maybe carriers. We don't even realize we've had this disease or this virus. There are those of us who don't even, that get sick, but don't really think much about it, right? We go through it. So I think that maybe the coronavirus is a vehicle for an upgrade in our human template. And I have no basis. If a scientist hears me talking about this, they'd be like, oh my God, you should be drummed out of the world. But isn't it an interesting thought? Like, it comes out of nowhere and it begins a process of, I think, changing us on a very cellular level. And some people are going to make that and be here when we evolve to the next level. Others wouldn't be able to make that, right? They didn't have the equipment in them to be able to do that. Maybe they're coming back in a different lifetime to help us with that change. So I just thought it was an interesting thought. I may be way off base, but you just never know. Sue McCarthy, right, ECETI, one of these days I am going. It is likely the most beautiful place on the planet. And I can tell you, a group of us women went. This was back in 2014 or 15. And we left in early June. I think it was June 3rd and 4th and 5th that we were there. And for me, it was a fairly beautiful drive. I mean, through, you go out around Mount St. Helens, and then you come back inward toward the eastern part of Washington, where you find yourself then at the foot of Mount Adams, another huge volcanic peak, very similar in looks to Mount Rainier, but just further south than Mount Rainier. And when you get there, there's this big field. He's got buildings there too, like common buildings where we ate and where there's, a center. But we sat up camp, if you will, outside, and we laid out under the stars. And in June, it's still very cold there. And we woke up in the morning. We didn't sleep in tents, right? The whole idea is you want to see the UFOs, you want to see the stars. And we're laying out there. We woke up in the morning with our sleeping bags iced over, our mat that we were sleeping on iced over. And it was an amazing experience. I'd never done that before in my life. And it is just amazing what you see in the night sky, whether they're satellites or UFOs or airplanes, I don't know. But there were people there that would tell you, well, that's a UFO because that one, we know the timing of the satellites. They've been there enough times. And it's just an amazing center, and you meet amazing people. If you ever have the chance to go, definitely go to ECETI. And James Gilliland is one of those people that you just want to wrap your arms around and love. He's just adorable and as genuine of a person as I've ever met. So even though, you're dealing with the topic that most people, are kind of, wiggy about, he has books upon books, photo books of people's images taken of UFOs. And they're not all from the state of Washington, although quite a few of them are, but they're from all over the country. People come and they bring their pictures and they put them in these albums, and you can look at those albums. So anyway, Laura, very interesting thought about the virus. Indeed, I would love to take all my crystal balls and connect to the energies down there. Yep, exactly. Phantom Chroma, the age of Aquarius being virus inspired. Interesting. I could see it for sure. Deborah Johnson, a genetic shift. Amy, a very interesting thought. I've been thinking similar thoughts. Now that tells me something. When more than one person is coming up with a thought, there's something that has been seeded in us, right? There's some kind of magic in that. When more than one, when I'm sure there are others out there thinking the same thing. Is this virus part of an evolutionary change that's coming for us? So anyway, genetic shifts, exactly. J-Lo says, I believe you. I was thinking that as I took my temp daily. Oh, gosh. And now we find out, of course, that not only are there the symptoms that we thought of, the fever, the cough, and the body fatigue, and then eventual pneumonia, but there are also others now that the CDC is recognizing. And as I read down that list the other day, I went, oh, yeah. Yes, people I'm sure have had this and they didn't even realize it because those things weren't part of the symptoms. No, Allison, I don't know your thoughts on the virus, so that's interesting. Phantom Chroma, synchronicity at its best. Exactly. Okay, let's continue with what we thought of for the moon in Cancer. So the moon in Cancer, emotion, right? And emotional closeness. This is the sign of caring and empathy and intimacy and being vulnerable, being able to wear your heart on your sleeve and to be able to show that softer inner side rather than just the hard shell. And it rules our feelings. So if you're feeling moody, definitely a part of the experience with the moon in Cancer. And as well, you're more sensitive during a moon transit in Cancer to other people's feelings as well as your own. And I had a friend one time that I did readings for, and she would tell me, why do I wake up in the morning with these horrible emotions? Well, this was before human design, and likely she had an open emotional center. But in regular astrology now, Cancer is a sign that feels the feelings from the people around them. And so when the moon is moving through that sign, it's very possible that you're picking up, your little radar is picking up the emotional field for the collective, maybe for other people that you happen to be in the same, room with or environment with, or maybe it is just your own feeling, but it's always hard to tell because we're sensitive to both what our own feelings are and to what other people are feeling. Now, also in the sign of Cancer, we have that nurturing energy that we think of as mother, right? Mothering energy. The moon represents the mother. The moon is the ruler of the sign of Cancer, also mother energy. So it's also about being supported or being supportive, being supported or being supportive, and how they're, one is the opposite side of the other and both are needed and necessary. So taking care of one another, mothering versus smothering energies, right? Those also come up during Cancer transits. Now, like any sign, there's always the more negative or the more lower frequency energies, right? There's always the spectrum of energies through which we can express the sign. And that goes from the higher frequency right on all the way down into the lower frequencies. And we may waffle between them, right? We can toggle between expressing that lower energy, then we become aware of it. We go, oh, wait, let me move to the other side. And part of the negative is clinginess and feelings of insecurity, not feeling good enough, possessiveness, a fear of being rejected, and a lack of definite goals, right? Then that Mercury in Taurus is going to help us with that. Right now, it's just this emotional blur maybe in your mind as far as what goals you have or what goals you should, want to be working on. But for the short term here, you may have that, I'm not sure what to do, where to go, who to do it with. And it becomes a process of becoming more defined as we move out of Cancer and into Leo in the next few days. Okay, what else? Today is 10 planting in our Pleiadian-Earth energy. 10 is that tricky place in the roll of numbers here, the 13 days. The 10 brings us to the energy of manifesting and building on what we've intended, but it can also see us reaping the not so good effects of things that we've put into play as well, especially if our minds have been on the more negative while our actions have been, or our ideas, things that we wanted to manifest or intentions were in a different direction. So we can get this split in this part of the week on what it is that is happening for us. So if you've had if your mind and your thoughts and your heart have all been aligned with your intentions, then this will be a much easier day. If you have had this disconnect where they're not quite aligned, then this can be a more challenging day for you as you realize the things that you've intended aren't coming to fruition. And what is it about that that's occurring? And the planting energy for the day, planting was Kan in the Mayan calendar, and Kan was represented by the seed. So it's a day of planting, right? What are we putting in the ground? And it tends to be lucky. It's energetic. It is supportive of new things. So today's a day for planting seeds. And with the 10, that might mean then you can course correct. If what you're seeing isn't what you intended, then maybe it's time to plant a new seed and move in a new direction. So don't be afraid to start new things today or to plant those seeds, but just make sure that you're not doing that in reaction to something, that you're more in response, which means you're choosing wisely and not just reacting to something. So that's our Pleiadian-Earth energy for the day. I'm pretty much done for the day. I should take a quick, no, I did that already, looking ahead at the week. I'm going to see about questions here. Allison says, people leaving have chosen not to be a part of this new world, while the people staying chose to take the new journey. That's a possibility, definitely too. And Allison, I mean, that's always one of the first things I think about too, is that maybe people that are leaving the planet have a divine appointment elsewhere. And so this is their gateway time for doing that, making that transition. Brenda says, I made it. Hello, Brenda. Deb Johnson says, our bodies know how to detox. Symptoms are similar to the flu. Interesting. Mom and I are literally about to plant a garden. Phantom Chroma, you are Lexi, right? So your mom has been with us. She was Wolf, last name Wolf. What was her first name? Laura. And planting a garden, great use of the energy. Amy, wow, so funny. I'm literally planting some plant babies today. Awesome. Asa pulled the Fool card this morning. Very aligned or aliened, whichever word works for me. And Allison says, Spirit card for the collective. Exactly right, Allison. I was already thinking this morning that I wanted to pull. We've done this for the last couple of weeks, pulled an animal card that helps us or represents the collective, like our guardian spirit, if you will, for the week. And I love that. So thank you for the reminder. Phantom says, yep. Ah, good. So that I have the right people. That's what I mean. Wolfberg, yes. But I think it just said Wolf on the thing. She got a card reading on Friday. So yay. Okay, so I am now choosing us a spirit animal. Oh, we seem to have two. Okay, we have ant spirit upside down. I got to go over to Zoom so I can see if I'm actually aligning these. Here's ant spirit. It was upside down. It says time to collaborate. And I think those are great images. Lucky coins, right? See those lucky coins at the top here? Puzzle pieces, What is that in the middle? That looks like a button or another kind of coin. So ant spirit, time to collaborate, but it was in protection mode. And the second card we got, animal for the week, is the deer spirit. What happened to the light in here? What's going on with my camera? Let me bring it over here. Deer spirit. And it says, bring a gentle touch. Wow, something really, really weird happened to my camera here. It's all very white light. White light. Don't go into the light. It's like that even on YouTube. That is so bizarre. Okay, well, okay. Let's read about the cards, shall we? Ant spirit. Ant is card number 1, a new beginning, number 1. And it says time to collaborate, but it is in the did I hit my lighting? That sound. Don't know. All right. Anyway, so the protection message for Ant says, do you really believe that you have to do everything yourself? Do you believe that somehow any help you get will be disappointing or not good enough? Perhaps it is time to address your issues of control and bias toward the negative. It doesn't matter where or why you came to be pessimistic or mistrustful. The fact that Ant spirit is showing up now is a sign that you have an opportunity to heal and to relearn to trust that others will show up for you in a genuine way. Ant spirit wants you to remember that your expectations and limiting beliefs are a vibrational offering that draws in the opposite of what you desire. This is right up the alley for the 10 Pleiadian energy today. Spirit wants to help you and will send collaborative partners your way. It's time to see the universe as conscious and connected, loving and helpful, but you must participate in this activity of co-creation. Creating reality is not just about dreaming. If you are feeling orphaned from community, reach out and communicate. Community, communicate. If you feel vulnerable, know that being present in your vulnerability can help you draw in someone who wants to assist you. Trust in your partnership with spirit, and your outer conditions will start to reflect that. Then you will see the miracles waiting for you, including partners who appear ready to lend a hand. All right, and deer is number 18. Let's see, bring a gentle touch, it says. And it says, the time has come to be gentle and diplomatic when dealing with others. You might have found yourself in a situation where negotiations are necessary in order to reach your goal. Be mindful of the words you choose, but do not worry. Dear Spirit reminds you that you have the ability to be sure-footed and confident while showing humility and respect for others. You will find that your capacity for calm and grounded communication is heightened at this time. Follow the way of Dear Spirit and you will do well, gaining the respect of others and finding common ground that is pleasing to you. Remember that understanding others and their needs will be more powerful at this time than putting your own first. If you do that, you will be rewarded tenfold. Very awesome. Very cool. All right. So we have some great guides on our way here. Let's see. She says, Phantom Chroma Mom and I just finished a puzzle yesterday. Awesome. Asa's planting today too. And J-Lo, cover it completely. Alice in White Light, we're being enlightened. See if it readjusts. No, it's not readjusting. I have a feeling this camera I've had for many years. So I don't know if maybe it's something going on with my camera or what. Phantom Chroma says, ha, spirit energy around you. Yes, I don't know. Who knows what, right? It's just, it seems to me like I have had a lot of issues lately around being on air here in the morning. If it wasn't for my original computer issue, then it was a connection issue, then it was Facebook as an issue, and then it was, let's see, whatever else was, trolls, and then more Facebook, and then a YouTube foul up, and now this. I don't know what that all means for me, except I've been thinking and considering over the last several months about whether or not this is something I should be doing every day. You guys make it all worthwhile for me to do this, but the struggles that seem to happen, and I don't know what this is all about today, because there's no one to ask, right? When stuff like this happens, who do you ask? No one. You have to figure it out yourself, or just go with the flow, I guess. I don't know. So we'll see what all of that means. But everybody take care. Have a great day. Tomorrow, what do we have? Tomorrow we'll be talking about the new Human Design Week. I could have brought that up today too. The sun is now moved to the gate 24 and the earth to the gate 44, the last of the fear gates. Yes, we'll be done with that in the by the end of the week. And we'll talk about that tomorrow because that's very mind-oriented and very spleen-oriented. So more on that tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Bye for now. End. There we go.